Rec League Podcast. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, tell your haters. Available on Podbean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Radio, Public Good Pods, Pocket Casts, and Breaker. At Rec League Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky. At Rec League Pod on Twitter. Episode 191. Coming soon. Yo! Whether you watching this from Facebook, Twitter, click the link in my Instagram or YouTube itself. What up, world? So, I just watched Minions and Monsters. It is the third Minions movie. It is the seventh Despicable Me franchise thing. It is the most recent Illumination Entertainment release. Super Mario Galaxy was in April. It stars the voices of Pierre Coffin, Trey Parker, Jesse Eisenberg, Christoph Waltz, Jeff Bridges, Zoe Dutch, Phil Lamar, Bobby Moynihan. It is also directed by Pierre Coffin. He has been involved in Despicable Me from the beginning, I'm pretty sure. Directed some, voiced the Minions through and through. You got the Minions. This is before the first Minions movie, so timeline-wise, this is the earliest. Like, the first Minions movie did do some, like, the Minions have been around since the dawn of, you know what I mean? But as far as, like, the entire story, like, the original Minions, Scarlet Overkill, was, like, in the 70s, I think. The Rise of Gru, I think, was 70s or 80s, but this is like 100 years ago. This is like the 20s. This movie is Babylon meets Minions. So it's like Minions, movies, no sound. Like, sound gets introduced in the middle of, and you got new Minions. James and I want to say Henry are like the two primarily focused upon Minions. They're creative. They're not just looking for the most evil boss to serve. And the Minions as a whole land in Hollywood. These two Minions are like get caught up in the aura of trying to make a movie. And upon the rest of the Minions looking for like the most evil boss, big boss, just madness ensues. That's the only way to describe this plot. And that's what I love. Like, if y'all know me, follow me on whatever socials, y'all know that I do a franchise binge before every new entry. And the three Minions movies on their own are completely different from each other. And that's so cool. Because in 2015, myself included, a Minions movie, man. Why we don't need a Minions movie. This is just Illumination, Universal, Despicable Me, cash grab. And while the first Minions movie is my least favorite of the three, The Rise of Gru and Monsters, all three, as I said, are just completely different from one another. I still think The Rise of Gru is my favorite Minions movie, but this one is very fun, almost just as good. And it's just like taking it back, seeing the Minions involved and inserted into like Hollywood history makes this fun. That, like I said in my Jackass review, there are some moments in this movie that are so funny. I was crying with tears in my eyes. And it, like, I think it could be argued that once the monsters appear, the movie kind of gets a little rushed, but that doesn't take away from like the quality. Because once the Jesse Eisenberg character comes in, the Minions themselves think that they have a big boss. But he's just some geek in a robot suit living in this apartment, kind of a pushover, and runs at the first sign of danger. He has this subplot with the Zoe Dutch character, who is, like I said, a woman in the 1920s protesting for equal rights. And I said it's subplot, but it's entertaining, it's fun, it's interesting. Once everything goes left with the movie and how every subplot comes together, it's a really well made thing that I just, like I said, doesn't rely on Gru. It doesn't rely on the Despicable Me franchise at all. And it still, like, nails it. The kids are gonna love it. I mean, like, the Minions are made for kids. Like, they're speaking gibberish and Spanish mashed together. And they're still coherent. They're still putting phrases and sentences together. And they like their bananas. And they have one goal. And this movie doubles down on a little bit of what the first movie did and shows how, while they're serving their boss, something always goes wrong and then they need to find a new boss. That was like a funny little wink to the original Minions. But I think this movie does things that narratively conflict with past Minions and or Despicable Me movies. But like not so much that I'm calling this bad. Like I'm telling, like I had a lot of fun watching this movie. There aren't post credits scenes specifically, but there are clips during like the first half of the credits that are fun. And that's what, like, I don't really like the phrase "turn your brain off," but the seventh movie in this franchise, you have an idea of what you're getting. And it still doesn't feel stale. If they do a Minions 4, a Despicable Me 5, if they keep this franchise going, like I'm invested. And again, like you are too, just because your child wants to see the new movie. So with all that being said, man, I will say that in my opinion, Minions and Monsters is dope. Like I said, not quite as good as Minions: The Rise of Gru. And my only knock with that movie is that it feels more of a Despicable Me prequel than it does a Minions sequel. But they are still one and the same. This feels like a Minions prequel. A prequel to the original Minions. As crazy as that sounds. So, have you seen Minions and Monsters, man? What you think? Positive, negative, somewhere in between? Let me know.